I left just before sunset, chasing empty highways and the promise of nowhere. It was supposed to clear my head. A few hours alone, a full tank of gas, and a road that stretched far enough to make all my problems feel small. GPS sat on my dashboard, its calm voice breaking the silence every so often with directions I barely needed.
Continue for 40 miles.
Easy enough. The sky burned orange behind me as I drove west, and for a while, that was enough to keep me company. The road was straight, the trees were thick, and the world felt far away. My phone was face down in the passenger seat. I didn't want calls, didn't want texts, didn't want anything except the sound of the engine and the steady rhythm of the tires on the asphalt. Then, night fell faster than expected. 1 minute the horizon was glowing, the next it was gone. The highway emptied until I hadn't seen another car in nearly an hour. No headlights, no tail lights, no distant glow in the rearview mirror, just my own beams cutting through the endless trees. Then the GPS chimed.
In 1 mile, turn left.
I frowned at the screen. There wasn't supposed to be a left turn. I remember checking the map earlier. Just highway, no exits, no side roads, nothing but a straight line through the dark. But there it was. A narrow dirt road, barely visible between the trees, as if it had been waiting for me to notice it. I almost kept going. Almost. But curiosity has a way of sounding a lot like reason when you're alone long enough. So I turned. The road narrowed immediately, the pavement giving way to packed dirt and loose gravel. Branches scraped along the side of the car. The trees closed in overhead until the sky disappeared completely. My phone lost signal. 1 bar, then none. The radio, which had been playing low static, suddenly burst into a hiss of sound. I reached for the dial, but before I could turn it off, I'd heard something beneath the noise. Voices. Not words, not exactly, just whispers. Thin, breathy, layered, under the static like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. I turned the volume down, but the whispers didn't stop. They seemed to come from everywhere, all at once, through the speakers, through the vents, from the trees outside the windows. I swallowed hard and kept driving. The dirt road twisted deeper into the forest. My headlights caught flashes of broken fence posts, dead leaves, and something pale hanging from the branches that I didn't want to look at closely. Then the GPS spoke again.
You have arrived.
I slowed. Ahead of me, the trees opened into a clearing. I stopped in front of an old cemetery. No gates, no signs, no road markers, just thousands of crooked gravestones disappearing into the darkness. Their shapes leaning at odd angles like teeth in a ruined mouth. For a moment, I just stared. Then the engine died. I hadn't turned it off. The dashboard lights flickered once, then dimmed. I tried the key. Nothing. Again, nothing. My pulse started hammering in my ears. I looked down at the floorboard, at the pedals, at the steering wheel, as if one of them might explain what was happening. Then I noticed something impossible. Fresh footprints surrounded the car. Hundreds of them, all leading away, none leading towards it. They were pressed into the dirt in every direction, as though a crowd had gathered around my vehicle and then walked off into the cemetery without even approaching it. My mouth went dry. Then something tapped my driver's window. 3 slow knocks. I froze. I looked. No one. Just the cemetery beyond the glass, the leaning stones, the black shapes of trees. Another 3 knocks, this time from the passenger window. I spun around so fast my shoulder hit the seat. Empty. Nothing there. No figure, no face, no hand, just darkness, and my own reflection staring back at me, pale and wide-eyed. Then the GPS spoke again, only it wasn't using its normal voice. It sounded old, weak, like someone whispering through a mouthful of dirt.
They have been waiting for you.
The words crawled across my skin, and then the cemetery changed. At first, I thought it was my eyes adjusting to the dark, but no. One by one, the gravestones began to move. Not the graves, the stones. They shifted with a deep, grinding sound like heavy doors opening in a long, abandoned house. A crack of darkness appeared behind the first one, then another, and then another, and from those openings, figures stepped out. A man carrying his own head in both hands, a little girl cradling an empty coffin against her chest, an old woman dragging a length of chain that disappeared into the earth behind her, a soldier with no lower jaw, a bride in a torn dress, her veil stained black. They moved slowly, but not aimlessly. They knew exactly where they were going. They weren't looking at the cemetery. They were looking at me. My breath came in short, sharp pulls. I tried the door handle. Locked. I hit the lock button. Nothing happened. I slammed my palm against the steering wheel and shouted for the car to start. The GPS gave one final instruction.
Exit the vehicle.
The locks clicked open by themselves, one by one. The sound was small, almost polite. The doors slowly swung outwards. Cold air poured inside, carrying the smell of wet earth and something older, something like dust and rot and rainwater trapped underground for too long. The figures began walking, not quickly. They didn't need to. They already knew I couldn't leave. I could hear them now. The soft scrape of their shoes on dirt, the drag of chain, the wisp of fabric brushing stone. They were close enough that I could see the details of their faces in the headlights, if they still had faces at all. I slammed the door shut and twisted the key again. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Then, the engine roared to life. I threw the car into reverse. The tires spun in the dirt. The back end fish-tailed. Branches snapped against the windshield. The cemetery blurred. The gravestones tilting and stretching in the headlights like they were being pulled apart. Then, all at once, it vanished. The dirt road vanished. The trees vanished. I was back on the highway, speeding through empty darkness as though nothing had happened. My hands shook so badly I could barely keep them on the wheel. I drove until sunrise. I didn't stop for gas, didn't stop for coffee, didn't stop even when my eyes burned and my throat felt raw from breathing too fast. I just kept driving until the sky turned grey and the first light of morning washed over the road. At the first gas station I found, I pulled in so hard I nearly clipped the curb. The clerk behind the counter looked bored, half asleep, until I asked him if there was a cemetery anywhere along Route 18. He frowned. There hasn't been one there for 50 years. I laughed, nervously, because that seemed like the kind of thing a person was supposed to do when they were scared and tired and not thinking clearly. He didn't laugh back. He just stared at me for a long moment, then glanced past my shoulder towards the parking lot. You should probably replace your GPS. I frowned. Why? He didn't answer right away. Instead, his eyes drifted to my dashboard and the color drained from his face. His voice dropped to a whisper. It keeps saying. He leaned closer, as if he didn't want the words to hear him. The screen hasn't shown a map in hours. I turned slowly towards the car. The GPS display was glowing faint in the morning light. No map, no route. Just a single line of text. Recalculating. One soul remaining.
You felt it, didn't you? That moment where something changed. You almost heard it. Play it back.
Absolutely. Got it.
It's clearer the second time. You've been listening to Dead Air. If you enjoyed the episode, follow the show. And remember, listen closely. New episodes every week. Good night. You stayed. We knew you would.
Don't turn around.